One of my favorite digital artists out there is Magdiel Lopez. I follow him on Instagram, and he had this tutorial on how he does these laser eyes using the Smudge tool, but it was a little bit on the short side. So what I wanted to do today is basically cover his tutorial, but give it the poster grind effect to make it a lot more in-depth and easier to understand. So without further ado, let's dive on in. As soon as you have a dope image, go ahead and mask it out. As soon as it's masked out, we're going to actually turn that image into a smart object by right-clicking, convert to smart object. Now is a good time to work on the background. So we're going to our bottom layer, then we're going to go to our adjustment layers. We're going to go to solid color. Now in solid color, you can turn it white for now. And then we're actually going to go to layer styles. So I'm going to double click on that layer. Now we're in layer styles. I'm going to go down to gradient overlay. Then we're just going to select a cool gradient. I picked up a bunch of awesome gradients over at envato.com, so you can head there and do the same if you want. This one is from the 36 neon gradients. I like this yellow and green scheme that we got going, so I'm going to hit OK and move on to the next step, which is to add another gradient. So we're going to go down to our adjustment layers, and then we're going to gradient. And then in gradient, we're actually going to change the color. So I'm going to hit that gradient. I'm going to hit the stop, go to color. I'm going to take this all the way to the red, like that. Then hit OK. Now let's work on those cool eyes. So going up to our subject layer, I'm going to hit L on the keyboard to bring up the lasso tool. Command plus to zoom in. Then we're just going to lasso around this left eyeball. Now that we have a selection created, we're going to hit Command J, and that's going to create a new layer of what we just created a selection of, as you can see. Then we're going to name it left eye. Then we're going to do the same exact thing for the right eye. And I'm going to name it right eye. Now we get to mess around with the smudge tool. So I'm going to hit the smudge tool. Then on the smudge tool, you're just going to want to use the soft round brush. Then head to brush settings. If you don't have that selected, you can find it in window and then go to brush settings, pull that up. What you want to do is make sure that our smudger is changed to an oval. Right now it's a circle. So let's just go ahead and drop that to an oval like that. Then we're going to put our strength at 100. And we'll work on this left eye first. What you're going to do is just line it up and then hold down your smudger. And you can take your time and go back and forth until you have what you want. And I'm going to do the same thing on the right eye like that. Now let's go ahead and convert these to smart objects. So I'm going to right click, convert to smart object on both. Then we're going to group these. So holding down the shift key and selecting both layers. I'm now going to hit Command G, and we're going to name this eyes. Now what we can do is add some adjustment layers. So I'm going to go to adjustment layers, curves, and we're going to attach this curves to that eyes grouping so that this curve layer only affects that group. So creating a clipping mask, I'm going to hit Option Command G. Now we're going to mess around with the curves, create a really bright psychedelic effect on those eyes. Then we're going to add another adjustment layer. We're going to go to adjustment layers, gradient map, and this is where we're going to bring in our color. So I'm going to attach that with a clipping mask, Option Command G. Then we're going to go to our gradient maps, and then we're going to select a cool gradient. That looks great. From here, we can go ahead and modify our eyes even more. So working on this left one, selecting our left eye, I'm going to hit Command T to bring up the transform tool. Then I'm going to right click and go to warp. And now we can warp it out even more. Then I'm going to hit turn for OK. And another thing I want to do just while we're here is go to filter, liquefy. And then we're going to liquefy. I'm going to do the same thing to the other eye. Now, if you want to get really slick with it, we can add a little shadow. So I have the light source coming from right to left on the image. So what I want to do is add some shadow below this one. So going with that right eye, I'm going to make a copy, Command J. I'm just going to drag this out of the group like so. And then we can go ahead, since it's already black and white, well, what we'll do is create the whole thing and make the whole thing black. So I'm going to right click, go to layer style, color overlay, and now my color is selected to black. Now I'm going to go to blend if, holding down the option key, I'm going to go to underline layer, and drag this slider to the right a little, and I'm going to drag the white slider to the left so that it interacts with the texture of her skin like that. Then I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to hit Command G to create a group, and we're going to name it Shadow. And then we're going to add a mask. Then hit B on your keyboard, and we're going to paint this away a little bit. Painting with black. Get rid of this spot. That doesn't make any sense. Then you can always reduce the opacity if it's too strong. Now let's do some touch-ups. I'm going to go to our eyes grouping, create a mask, hit B on the keyboard, painting with black. Just going to paint her eye back in. And I got to do the same thing with that shadow because that shadow's coming through. Actually, what I want to do is mess with that shadow one more time. I'm going to change the color and see what happens if we go from a black to a different color. So I'm selected on that group, the shadow group. Then I'm going to go to adjustment layer, solid color. I'm going to drag this to a red for now. Drag it up above that layer, Option Command G. And that looks kind of cool. So maybe what I'll do is change the blending mode to lighter color. Maybe make it a little darker, like that. And maybe just drop the opacity. There we go. That looks a little better. All right, let's go to our top layer, add one more new layer, and we're just gonna add a little bit of blur to the ends here. So I'm gonna select that yellow, just add a little atmosphere, like that. And then drop the opacity. And then what I wanna do is add a motion blur to her. So I'm gonna go to the subject, and then I'm going to filter. Then I'm gonna go to blur, and then we're going to go to motion blur, and then making sure your angle's at 0. You can kind of tweak it out. 150 looks good. Hit OK. And it's a little too strong, so what we're going to do is go to that mask for the filter, hit Command I to invert, and then we're just going to paint with white. So hit B on your keyboard, and then make sure you're painting with white. So hit X, and then we're just going to blur these edges just to give it a little funkiness. There we go. That looks pretty cool. Now let's make this thing really cohesive. So what we're going to do is go to that top layer, hit new layer. Then we're going to merge all of our layers below by hitting Shift, Option, Command E. Basically takes a snapshot. Then we're going to right click, go to Convert to Smart Object. Then we're going to work with our Camera Raw filter. So we're going to go to Filter, Camera Raw. Now in Camera Raw, we're going to adjust a lot of things. So we're going to go to light. Let's just increase the exposure a little bit, 0.25, add a little bit of contrast. Then let's go to highlights, go to 4, shadows, go to 13, whites, drop those, -20. Let's see what happens with our blacks. Go to 29. And on color, I just want to mess around with the saturation and vibrance. So I'm going to put the vibrance at 34, put our saturation at 11. Then on effects, we're going to make it a little dreamy, so we'll take out some of the texture. Go to -15, and we'll just increase the clarity just a bit to 5. We'll add 4 on dehaze. Then on grain, we can pump this up. Go to 50. Well, let's just go down to detail. See what happens when we increase our sharpening. Go to 91. Then hit OK. And there you go, guys. We have this really cool image. I think it came out great. And I hope you guys dug this. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks for watching.